comes a time, when you practice between January 15th and February 15th when you need to go out and play somebody with a different name on the jersey. And I think the players would tell you that we're definitely there. As the old coach with a bunch of new faces out there, I probably would maybe use another week or two, but I feel like we're as prepared as we can be at this point. We were able to get outside 2 weeks ago, virtually the entire week, and all of the pitchers were able to throw in a scrimmage environment one time, which is a big bonus. And then we were obviously back in the week after, but the group works hard, and I really enjoy this group, being with them. All of our coaches do. We really haven't had a bad day the whole season. They love to play. I think they have some toughness innately as a group. And the only thing that's going to be different is that last couple of years we've had guys out there that we've been able to pencil in the lineup for 2 or 3 years, and this year there's just going to be a lot of new faces on the position player side. Our pitching staff, I feel really good about our pitching staff. We suffered some pretty big losses, but we did have a lot of guys who had experience, who had been out there coming back, and all of those guys have really worked hard and have improved and are in a good place right now. And the one break that we caught this summer was that Cade Obermueller is back, and that gives us a bona fide Friday night starter out there, and Cade has just continued to make steady progress, and he's been pretty impressive in the early simulated games that we've done. And I feel like he's in the best place he's been since he has been here. And then Aaron Savory pitched well for us last year, and had a good role, and he'll be week 1 Saturday starter. And then Reese Buter didn't have he would say he would agree with me, he just didn't have a great year last year, and his stuff and his makeup and his work ethic, just he's too good for that to be who he is. And he went out and made some changes, and he and Coach Kinney have hit it off well, and he pitched great all fall, and has earned the Sunday starter for us. And then Anthony Watts is one of our best guys, and had a big role last season, and it was a tough decision on what to do, whether to start Anthony or bring him out of the bullpen. And so this could flip-flop at any time, but right now, week 1, big picture, that this might be the best version of the team if it works, is like use Anthony as a longer close on Friday after Cade if we have a lead or feel like we have a chance to win that game, because he's a guy that can go 3 or 4 innings, and he's prepped to start. He's built up to start, so we could obviously flip it next week if we wanted to and give him a chance. But the great thing about Anthony is that as much as he wants to start, he just wants to help the team win, and he's a better version of what you saw last year, in my opinion, too.
How close are you to a starting lineup?
Starting lineup, that was a little tougher. We're still taking in as much data as we can. We just found out literally half hour ago, Sam sent over who their starters were going to be, so trying to prep was a little tough, but because they have a new coach, a lot of guys took off with the portal stuff, and we tried to do as much research as we could to see who's still there, and who we thought would be their Friday guy, and it was either going to be a left-hander or a right-hander. So as far as the Friday night lineup, that'll be dictated somewhat by the lefty as the guy who they decided to start. So now we can make some better decisions on what we think would be the best matchup.
With that pitching coach opening that you had, kind of what were the things you were looking for in terms of that next guy, and what stood out to you about Coach Kenny in the process?
Well, Coach Kinney, his reputation in the business was outstanding, and we knew Coach Kinney a little bit from when he was at Michigan, when I first was hired here at Iowa. Marty has told me numerous times that, like, when he's out recruiting or on the road, even when Sean was at Georgia, if there was a seat open, that's the guy he kind of wanted to sit by. And just a great guy, good person, good relationship guy, but also he brings in immense experience. Played pro ball from the Midwest, from Michigan, ended his pro career with the Mets in California, started coaching in the junior colleges, worked his way up, Pepperdine, San Diego. Then he's out with Coach Backish at Maryland when they were in the ACC, and then boom, he's in the Big Ten with Coach Backish when he was hired at Michigan, and then after a couple of years was doing such a good job, Coach Strickland hired him at the University of Georgia, where he spent 6 or 7 years in the SEC, and then when that fell apart for Coach Strickland, he landed on his feet at Houston, but I knew Sean knew he wanted to be in the Big Ten, in the Midwest, and I think he really wanted to be in a developmental program like ours, where there's a high value put on improving and getting better and teaching every day, and just his experience, not only from a baseball coaching standpoint, but from a recruiting standpoint, with the number of connections that he brings in. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. He knows everybody, and we were able to pick up 2 or 3 kids right away once Sean was hired. And, we were looking for someone that was a good fit for our culture and our program, and I think we found that.
There was a lot of questions in the fall about maybe who would be the Sunday starter, and then obviously into the preseason who would be the Sunday starter. There's been a lot of talk about Cade. Obviously, the Friday, it feels like Aaron Savory's been the guy that hasn't had a lot of talk on him. Just what did he do over the offseason to earn the spot in the rotation?
It's been more. He had a really good summer, obviously, in the Cape, but he's been way more accountable and consistent starting day one in the fall. I think Aaron has really grown and matured as a person. Last year was big for him, getting out there and being in some tough spots and having success. I think his overall arsenal's better, his velo's better, and I guess the best way to put it, when you watched Aaron in high school, he was the guy that was maybe the 86, 87, but still got guys out and still competed his tail off. And, I went over multiple times to see him pitch, and Marty as well, and we were just saying, okay, let's maybe see a little bump in the velo, here. And then his senior year, boom, it happened, and we just liked the way he competed. His dad played pro ball, and he's got a good bloodline there with him teaching him how important it is to not get caught up in the external stuff and just go out and compete. And that's the thing that I like a lot about Aaron, is he doesn't let things bother him, good, bad, whatever. Lets it roll off his back and gets back after it. And last year he had times where it was lights out, and then some inconsistency with some walks or 2-out walks that turned into a run. And I think he's to a point where we're hoping that he's overcome that and can be even a little more consistent than he was last year if he can. I think he's a perfect guy, in that Saturday role. But if we ever needed to move, we know he can be successful out of the pen and has good experience with that too.
For the guys who are back from last year, I guess, what part of last year do you want to leave from last year, and what part of it do you want to mentally more kind of bring into this year as motivation to start?
Well, the interesting thing to that question, it's a good question. A lot of that stuff was talked about right after the season, and to clean the slate and the things that they needed to do to come back in a better place and be improved in a lot of areas. And having Sean, once he was on board, you know, he was able to reach out and do Zooms with those guys and try to set the tone with them on you know, just getting back to, you know, good Iowa baseball, pound the strike zone, you know, all those things that we've been pretty successful with in the past. I think all of those guys had a little chip on their shoulder to prove that they're better than how they performed last season, and that's what I felt the whole year. The staff's been tight-knit, but they're all rallying behind each other, and they're working really hard. And I think that anytime you get embarrassed a little bit, if you've got this, you know, you're going to go out and try to prove that was a blip in the radar. And these guys, you know, since first day we met in August, have been really dialed in on that. And so consequently, you have a lot of guys that, you know, maybe as you guys look at it, you know, oh man, his numbers were kind of bad. His numbers were kind of bad, but all those guys have good stuff and good enough stuff to win if it's in the right place. And I feel like that they've done that. But to that point, you know, hopefully we haven't really talked a whole lot, if any, really, after those initial talks in the summer, and we just moved on, put it behind us, and move forward.
The kind of under the radar role is a place you guys have been in a lot going into the year. How do you master that and take advantage of that?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, I don't think any of us really know how this is going to go with the new schedule and the new teams, and you know, having to play week 4 in the Big Ten as opposed to week 6. You know, not having some home series and get your feet under you after being on the road, and then, you know, like us, we're going to Rutgers, and you know, it's not going to be warm, I'm guessing, week 4 at Rutgers, you know, and how all that shakes out. But you know, I don't know. This year's team, it's really tough to say because I see pieces where we could be really good. But a lot of it depends on how those new faces on the offensive side, you know, perform. I feel really confident that we're going to put a quality, competitive pitching staff out there. I think we have good pieces in the middle. We have good pieces at the backside. You know, Ben Dete is a guy that we really have a lot of confidence in to close games out. Sam Hart is better. There's a couple other guys that we could use on the back end, which gave us some trouble last year. We feel like we're deep enough to go split start here these first 2-3 weeks until guys get their feet under them. And then I would tell you, I think this position player group has the potential to be as good, if not better, defensively than last year's team, which was an excellent defensive team. You know, the question that is out there is, are we going to be able to find identity and score runs? And I don't think we're going to know that until the lights come on, because the training's gone well, the stuff in here's gone well, but as you guys know, until the lights come on, and the first time for a lot of guys getting out there and seeing high-quality pitching day in and day out, how they're going to adapt to that. But I think that the potential's there. It's a little bit of a challenge from a coach's standpoint because some of the hitters that you may want out there day in and day out aren't the defenders that you want out there day in and day out. So you're going to have to make some tough calls almost on a daily basis on what you're going to do with that. And then the two catchers, Reese Moore and Daniel Rogers, when one isn't catching, the other one's probably going to DH because they're two of your better hitters, and so that kind of knocks anybody else out from jumping in to the DH spot that you'd like to try, unless, you know, one of those guys would struggle. There'll be a lot of options. I think you'll see a lot of different lineups, and you know, just trying to find the right mix on what we can do and what kind of identity we can have to score runs. But I would tell you guys this: every team I've ever coached, if we pitched well and we played defense, we usually found ways to score enough runs to win. And I'm hoping that's what the story is this year with this team. And you know, they if they're committed to team offense, you know, and doing their 1/9 and whatever you have to do, which I believe they will be. I think we'll find our identity, and consistent pitching usually leads to consistent offense, even if it's not a lot of runs. This team needs that pitching and the defense to be consistent, because I don't think it's a team that, like you saw last year, there were times when we could outslug people, and there were times when, being down 5 or 6 wasn't that scary if with the guys that we were running out there. I don't think we're going to be a team that's going to thrive in that environment very well. But like last year, not want to talk a lot about it, but with the peaks and valleys, when you got a staff and you say a guy might go 7 innings and have 2 hits, and then the next time out, could be out in the 2nd inning, that's when your offense doesn't really know what to expect, and the consistency usually wanes. So we're hoping that the staff can be really consistent, keep us in games, and play good defense. And if we do that, I think this offense will rise to the challenge and find a way to score runs.
Is Cooper Schulte going to be at short?
Yes, day one Cooper.
What did you see that in?
Really good player, really good baseball player. I guess the best way to sum it up. He's got a lot of intangibles, and he's a true son of a coach. And you guys know his dad played here, and one of the top JUCO coaches in the country. And Justin's a tough guy and brings a lot of toughness to his teams, and Coop has that. Really. Just a steady Eddie with how he goes about his business. He and Gable are really a good match up the middle, because you got 2 guys that are really intense and really focused and really want to be the best they can be. And so that's a great combination to have. And Coop's he's maybe the perfect guy to come in after Michael Siggers. Michael's been out there a long time and was a big time defender for us. And I think Coop can step in and do a really solid job defensively, and then I think that there's a chance that he may surprise some people and provide maybe a little more offense than advertised. I think he's done some stuff with his swing with Marty Sutherland, our hitting coach, and he's strong right now, and ball's jumping off his bat, and so we're hoping we can get some offense out of Coop as well.
3 weeks ago, there was a bill proposed in the Iowa House that would bring back the Iowa State and Northern Iowa baseball programs. I'm curious, would you welcome back those 2 programs?
For sure. I mean, from a selfish standpoint, it would make things difficult, from a recruiting standpoint. But, you have to be, in my opinion, and this is just how I was raised and how I believe, is that for the good of the game, it's what we need. For the good of the game, for baseball. For us to have, my scheduling dilemmas go away. We've got home and away. We've got home and away. There's 4 of them midweek games that are fixed, right now. And as you guys well know from watching in other sports, it adds a lot to those games. I mean, there's more meaning and there's pride, and we don't have that, with those schools being gone. But knowing what I know or think I know, the odds of that are pretty slim, especially when everybody in college athletics are scrambling to try to figure out what to do and how they're going to survive with the revenue sharing and the money issues that everyone is having to bring a sport back when a lot of people are making big cuts. From a timing standpoint, don't seem to be prime, but I wish him the best in that effort, and hope it happens for the good of the game.
What do you remember from that lunch with Sean and Cade, and how have you seen Cade, or how have you seen Cade kind of improve from last year to this year?
I think it's been a real steady progression with, one, his composure and being in control of him, and 2, from him figuring out how his body moves and being able to throw strikes consistently, and finding, he's always had the crazy analytic slider, but those aren't the easiest to throw strikes with when it's moving 25 inches. And, you know, Coach McGrath last year did a good job of it, of getting Cade to adjust that slider where he could throw it for a strike more often, but then he could use the bigger sweeper when he was ahead in the count and needed it. And I thought that was a nice progression for him. He's stronger. He's more mature. He's in better control. He has been more of a leader. And then, you know, having his dad, Wes, helping us out in, you know, his role and his knowledge and his expertise and experience, you know, pitching in the big leagues for as long as he did, and then also being an alum that played here. Wes has been great to have around, and I think it's been good for Cade. But Coach Kenny's done a really nice job of, you know, of getting not only Cade but the entire staff to believe in him and believe in what he's talking about and what he's teaching. And Cade is just, I think Cade is really in a prime spot to go out and just compete and not worry about any of the external stuff, which even though he tried in the past, I think he let it eat him up at times. And, you know, there would be those outings where he looked like he's going to throw a no-hitter first 3 innings, pitch counts way down, and we're thinking, all right, we might get 6 today, might get 7 today, save the bullpen. And then the 4th inning, it's a 33 pitch inning or 34 pitch inning, and we're out in the 5th. And that happened a lot, and it's happened a lot in his career. But I haven't seen that guy since fall ball started. And he's just been lights out, consistent. When it started to go, maybe he was able to step back and stop it. And you know, and the stuff is real. The stuff is as good as you'll see, and especially from a guy his size. And you know, the arm slot is really nasty, and he's just pounded his fastball so much better than I've ever seen him this fall and spring. And so, yeah, I mean, you never know until the lights go on, but I feel really, really confident in Cade and believe he's going to have a phenomenal year for us.
Thanks, appreciate it.